Welcome to the Hustle Culture Podcast. My name's Sloan, and let's dive in. What is up, guys? Today is episode 7 of the Hustle Culture Podcast, and I'm so excited because today's episode I could go on and on and on for. I'm going to be doing some book recommendations. I don't know if anyone else is a huge book nerd, but I am. I'm also kind of addicted to the aesthetic of how books look, so I take all the book covers off my books. And I also just recently got a bunch of new books for Christmas, so my bookshelf is spilling over, and I think I might need a new bookshelf. It's kind of funny, because I like to organize them by color just because I like them every single color. Well, I'm running out of spots. Like, my black shelf is overflowing into my white shelf, and it's irritating me. But it is what it is. So today I have 2 genres of books, fiction and nonfiction. I love all these books. I've read them multiple times. Very good books. Totally would recommend. So the first one on my list is actually a new-ish book. I don't know. I never heard of it before, never heard anyone talk about it before, and then someone I follow on Instagram was really recommending it, and a bunch of people were liking it. And I love my next door neighborhood site. I'm always looking on there. And then randomly one day I was going to go buy the book, spend $20, and then I saw it on there, and I was like, I'm going to go get that. I actually made my mom go get it for me because I was busy. And then I read it, and it was really, 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 really good. It's called Then She Was Gone. It's kind of graphic. It's about a missing child, and so it can be kind of graphic. And the mom's search to find her. The mom goes through a bunch of loopholes to find the child. And it's a very good book. It kind of goes on and on in the beginning, and then the climax of the book is towards the end, and then it just ends, but it leaves you on a huge cliffhanger. And sometimes I kind of like that. The next book series, I suppose, which is the best book series in the whole world, in my opinion, is Harry Potter. I feel like some people either love Harry Potter or hate Harry Potter. I love Harry Potter. I read it for the first time. I was probably 6 with my dad, and he always tells me a story. I was 6 when I first read the book, and then I'd watch the movie afterwards. Well, I read through the book so quick, I was still probably 7, and I was on the last book. Well, I wasn't allowed to watch the last movies because they're obviously kind of scary, so I had to wait. And I've never finished the movies because I have to watch them in order, like do a movie marathon, and I can never make it to the last movie for some reason. I just don't have the attention span to sit through like 20 hours. And then by the time I do, I forget what everything actually happened. So I've never actually finished the series in the movies. I've read all the books, and I recently just listened to them on audiobook. Kind of wouldn't recommend because you can kind of zone out. However, if you already know what's happening, then you're fine. It's just easier to zone out and tune out what everyone's saying when you're listening to an audiobook. My next absolute favorite series is the series of Unfortunate Events. I just love the series. I've read these books so many times. They're so good. I did watch the movie and I did watch the show. I don't personally like the show that much. Unfortunately, I was kind of forced to watch it. But it's rather confusing, and I don't necessarily think the actors were good fits for the characters. However, the books, it was very good, and I was able to breeze through it quickly. I read them all in middle school, and I just recently also listened to them on audiobook again. It was really good. And one book that was just recommended to me recently by someone on Instagram, it's the Mysterious Benedict Society. It was really good. However, it was like a 500-page book, and I like short, easy reads. This is an easy read because it's for kids typically. However, it was just really long, and I feel like a lot of the moments were drawn out, and they totally could have been short and sweet. However, they were drawn out. So if you have the attention span to read a really long book, go for it. However, once I start a book, I can't finish it, or I can't not finish it, so I had to finish it. And unfortunately, it also kind of ended on a cliffhanger. And then there's like 3 more books left in the series. So I think I'm going to end up having to read the rest of the books, but we'll see. So my next genre is definitely my favorite. I love nonfiction books. I'm kind of always looking to learn. I've tried to branch out and force myself not to do this, but I don't like watching or listening to or reading or doing anything that like isn't teaching me something. I know that probably sounds really uppity, but I kind of just get bored if it's just mindless. So, but I'm trying to break myself out of that and watch mindless, mind-numbing TV if I can. However, then I feel guilty, but I'm also trying to remind myself it's okay to zone out, not deal with the world. However, I have read lots of nonfiction books, and I really, really enjoy them. A lot of them have been on audiobooks. However, a lot of these I actually have myself, and I've read them a lot of times. Some of them are more geared to the women genre, so I don't know. The first one is Girl Boss. It's written by Sophia Ambrosio. It was a really interesting book, and it was a very, very easy read. It's definitely interesting to hear other people's stories who definitely had to start their companies from the ground up, kind of like me, and all the struggles they dealt with. And it's nice to hear that everything's not perfect in the start. I know on Instagram and Facebook, and when you see other people doing these startup companies, everything looks absolutely perfect. No one talks about their downfalls and their bad days and their terrible days. However, it's definitely nice to hear that not everyone's life is as perfect as Instagram and Facebook make it seem. It's definitely kind of refreshing to see and hear. So I definitely enjoyed that book. And then it also has a workbook that went with it. I haven't done the workbook because I just haven't had the time, but I have that too. The next book was one book that I recently read, and I very much enjoyed it. It's called Lady Gang. I didn't know who these women were before the book. I just saw the book very recommended, and the cover kind of matched my aesthetic of my room and of my bookshelf. So I bought the book. I read it in probably 2 days, and then I realized I know who these women are. However, I thought I didn't. So now I listen to their podcast. It's the Lady Gang podcast. They're a lot older than me, so it's definitely interesting to hear them talk about some of the same things that I go through. So it's interesting to hear life never gets easier. Life is always going to be terrible, essentially. Just kidding. But life is always going to be a roller coaster. Just because you get older, you don't get it all figured out. So it's definitely a very good book. I very much enjoyed reading it, and it was a very easy read. I like those easy reads. Makes me feel productive. So the next book is actually a book I'm kind of reading right now, so I can't exactly give you like a full recommendation on it, but it's called The Story of Stuff. I am definitely a very conscious-minded person with what I buy and what I bring into my household and bring into my life, because I understand the impact of everything I buy on the planet and on my wallet, especially. A lot of people don't consider the impact that their stuff that they buy has made on the planet before it comes into their house, and a lot of people also don't consider the impact of what happens to our stuff once we throw it in the trash. People think once you throw it in the trash, it's gone forever, and you don't have to worry about it again. Unfortunately, that's not true. It ends up in our landfills, and a lot of people don't realize our landfills are actually like overflowing, and we're completely running out of room. And then a lot of people say the alternative is to incinerate everything. However, with the makeup of a lot of our products, they contain toxic materials, which once burned create ozone holes and creates a whole mess in the environment. So I think people definitely need to be a lot more mindful. I'm pretty minimalist in what I buy in general, so I am able to conserve my money. So when I do want to buy something, like recently I just bought new underwear. Since I don't buy 50 pairs of underwear at a time, I buy 10 because I know realistically I do laundry at least once a week. Totally okay. I was able to splurge and spend $50 on a 5-pack of underwear because it's better for the environment. And I also don't buy a lot of clothes, so I'm able to input that money into other places and be able to afford, unfortunately, the more ecological alternative, an environmentally friendly alternative, because unfortunately, typically the environmentally friendly alternative is more expensive in the short run. However, a lot of times it actually lasts longer than your 100% cotton t-shirts or your synthetic materials. Just food for thought. But I'm probably about 100 pages into the book, and it's very good. It's definitely going to be a very long book, but I've heard it's recommended a lot. And I've kind of been on the environmental train for a while now, and I feel like I should have read it a long time ago, but it is what it is. The next book that I'll recommend is Think and Grow Rich. My dad probably 2 years ago bought me a whole bunch of books that are all businessy and mindset books, and this was one of them. That was probably my favorite. Nothing too crazy. It's kind of a classic. My next favorite book is Becoming by Michelle Obama. I bought the book in hard copy, and I really, really wanted to read it. However, I was just too busy to actually sit down and read it, so then I got it on Audible, and it was very good. It's read by herself. It's read by Michelle Obama herself. It was very good, a very interesting tale. The next book is No B Plan for Your A Game. That was a very good book. It's very interesting. It kind of tells the life of his son, too, in the story. I'm not exactly sure who the author is. I'm not I don't know who he is outside of the book. So I just Googled who the author was, and it's Bo Eason, and I do know who Bo Eason is. However, I didn't know exactly how much of a motivational speaker he actually was. I knew him from football, obviously, but I didn't know he was more of a motivational speaker than anything, and just shows how much I know about sports. But it was definitely a very interesting book. So the next book series that I will recommend, however, I will not recommend it due to who the author is the Rachel Hollis series. Rachel Hollis, love-hate relationship with her. Kind of think she has the white savior complex with all of her adopted children. Christianity comes into play with that. Kind of a long story. But I think a lot of the material in her books is very useful, and she just came out with a new one. It's like, didn't see that coming. It's about her divorce with her husband, which is rather interesting because, once again, her Instagram life was picture perfect, seemed like, with her husband 24/7. And then all of a sudden, I think it was like right before the book was about to come out, news broke that they were getting divorced. And honestly, I don't really pay attention to celebrity news. I'm like, whatever they do them, I don't really care what they do too much. Not in the aspect of like they are holier than thou. I'm just like, I don't care. So my main bone to pick with Rachel is that she gives life advice and does not follow it herself. That's typical for influencers. I don't know if anyone's realized this, but I feel like 2020 was like cancel culture for influencers everywhere. And then again, she also charges exorbitant amounts of money for like her workshops and classes, and her whole empire and everything is very interesting if you go down the rabbit hole. I could go off, but I also don't want to talk badly about anyone. However, it was very interesting to see that. But that's it for today. I don't really have any other book recommendations, but these were all amazing books that I totally recommend anyone to read, hard copy or audiobook. Audiobook is definitely my favorite because I'm always on the go and I don't always have the time to sit down and physically read a book, unfortunately. However, I do like my bookshelf very much. Some books you have to read in hard copy, other ones you can get by with doing audiobooks. Currently, right now, I'm reading, I think it's So You Want to Talk About Racism or So You Want to Talk About Race or something like that. Very interesting book. But thank you guys for listening. See you next week. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to the Hustle Culture Podcast. If you enjoyed listening, please hop onto Apple Podcasts and leave us a review. If you did not enjoy for whatever reason, let us know what you'd like to see differently. If you'd like to help us grow, follow us on Instagram at Hustle Culture Podcast or on my personal Instagram at SLOANEKORDISH. I'm so excited to grow with you. See you next Monday. Bye.